Welcome back to my Ford Transit Mk8 Campervan Build. This time I'm going to be working on the ceiling. So just like the floor, it's going to have some battens and it's going to be insulated just in a different way. So I'm going to use the same PIR board for the insulation on the ceiling, only I'm going to be using 50mm and not 25. And battens wise, opposed to the thicker blue battens I use in the floor, I'm going to use 12mm ply just because it's going to bend around the curve of the van's roof a lot better. I'm also going to add a Max Fan Deluxe as well, so I need to create the framework for that and mount that when that comes. Let's get started. So for my battens, I'm going to use 12mm ply. Mainly it's a bit more flexible. So having just measured it, I've got. So in the van, I've got 4 roof ribs, which are all the exact same. I'm going to make my battens 157cm by 15. So let me explain how the batten and the insulation is going to work. If this here is the van's metal roof, and this is a rib of the van, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be putting 50mm insulation in this area. That's how it normally be, or I could cut it at an angle to fit more like that. And then going to put 15mm wide battens here. This is going to clamp the insulation in. I'm then going to screw the batten directly to the metal rib here, and then afterwards when I put the cladding on, the cladding will be screwed directly into the battens either side of the metal beam. The reason I've done this is I don't want cold ridging to be a problem. With this metal screw going into this metal beam, the cold from the van's metalwork will make its way through the screw and leave a cold screw head. If this was exposed to the open areas of the van, this would be a place for condensation to form from the humid air in the van just from breathing. And if condensation starts to form on that screw head, that's water which is going to soak into the wood, and if it happens to all of the screw heads over time, that can be quite problematic for your wood. So here, with these screws going directly into the wood but not into the metal, there's going to be no temperature transfer between the insulation and the screw head. So that's going to stop the cold bridging. So this is the reason that the cladding is being screwed into the overly large battens and not screwed directly into the metal framework of the van. This screw head is going to be isolated because I'll be putting a vapor barrier above it. I'm also cutting them extra wide as that's what's going to hold and clamp in the roof insulation as well. So what I've done here is I've made just a little jig or a sledge from a circular saw. Mainly just so when I'm using the circular saw, I get a straight line. I can line it up, clamp it down, and just then slide the circular saw along it. Right, first batten done. Quite hard work flexing it into the right place, but overall happy. It's going to give you a nice curve as well for the roof. Let's cut all the other ones. Well, that was a bit of a wet one. So we've now moved inside the van for the rest of the work. So the next job is installing the insulation. So once again, just like the floor, I'm using PIR insulation board. You see it called Celotex and Kingspan. I've just got a different brand of it, so I'm using the 50mm stuff this time. So trying to get it cut and shaped. My main problem is this is a flat board and it doesn't bend very well, and the ceiling is curved, so it's going to be some interesting shaping to get it all fit. I'm not quite sure what the best route to take is. These boards are only 120cm wide and the roof is about 155. But it is curved, so I'm going to probably have to cut it into blocks anyway, so I might just cut 120cm blocks and put some slits in it so it will bend around, and then seal those slits up with the foil tape just like we did for the flooring. I think that will probably be the most efficient use of this. Right, do I want to cut it with a saw or a knife? I haven't cut this thicker stuff before. So this is a tip I learned from the Restoration Couple's YouTube channel about how to cut and deal with this board, and he pointed out that a really good way is just to use measuring tape and then dig in the end of the measuring tape just into the board as a marker, as opposed to going over it with a pen. Although it is thicker, I'm hoping in just like the thinner board it should just crack. There we go. That is not the straightest of edges. And then just run down. Okay, so what I do need to do is I do need to taper in the edges a bit. The top of these ribs is about 63 centimeters to the other side, and the bottom is about 67. So I do need to shave off an angle on the top just so it slots in quite well. Okay, the panels actually have more flex and seem to have almost relief lines, which is all flexing already. So I have a little bit of an issue where the 50mm board is probably a little bit thicker than the actual ribs. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a spacer with probably 12mm ply, which then brings this nice and flush, and then I'll put my bigger batten on top of it to clamp it in place. Make a few more modifications to the panels. It seems that this ridge comes down quite a bit as well, so I'm just going to take a notch off the back, so hopefully they'll sit a little bit flatter. Right, it's a new day and it's time to figure out how I'm going to mount the battens. So the battens I've made are going to sit on top underneath these ribs, like so, flexed up. I'm going to have to put some little spacers, probably something a bit like that, on the wood first and then my batten, just because there's a lot of force trying to bend those insulation panels and I don't really want that all pushing down all the time on the battens. So I'm putting a little spacer just to ease the pressure off the insulation boards a wee bit. But I need to figure out how to try and attach these. I'm going to use self-tapping screws for most of it, but I've already got some threaded M8 slots here. So what I think I'll do, so I'll probably put the corresponding hole, recess the head into the wood and bolt those on there, and then put some additional self-tapping screws in as well. For the middle section, there isn't any nice threaded bolts, but there are a lot of old holes. So I'm going to put one of these plates, which is out of my old van, and I think they're galvanised little spreader plates with threads in the back, and they just nicely slot up there. I can line them up, and I think these are M6 bolts, so I can just reuse actually some of the bolts from when I removed the bulkhead from the van. And what I'm going to do first is I'm just going to put some Sikaflex EBT adhesive on the underside of this plate and screw these in and just bolt them in place, let that cure, and then these should be nice fixed threaded points for putting the centre battens on. Just going to give them a quick little coat of some, just lightly with some Hammerite, just to protect them. So this is my test piece. What I need to do is I need to basically recess the head of this screw. Although quite a bit of material is removed, these are still going to be bolted, self-tapping screws into the metalwork as well, and Sikaflex EBT as an adhesive on the underside. So it should be plenty strong when it's actually attached to the vehicle. Mount the battens on, what I'm going to do is, these are all little cavities at the minute, so I'm going to use recycled plastic bottle roof insulation, this sort of stuff. I'm going to talk a lot more about the insulation and using this particularly on when I insulate the walls on that video, but for now I'm just tearing off little chunks of it. I'm just going to slot it into all the little gaps, so when I put my battens up, that's nice, going to be a nice insulated area as well. With this stuff, it's kind of important, it's not massively compressed. The idea of this is it's got air in it, and that's what gives it the insulation. If you tightly compact it, then it's not going to work as efficiently. I'll be stuffing in the middle of the beams as well. It's just I'm getting the hard to reach areas at the minute, so I can put on the outer battens. A little bit later on in the day, and what my plan is I've got these plates I'm going to recess behind here and glue into place, so I've got a threaded bolt hole. So I'm just going to use some more Sikaflex EBT. Just a bead of the Sikaflex around the outside. Right, well, it's another new day. This part is taking a lot longer than I thought, but it's time to finally get these batten spacers up. So they're going to get Sikaflexed onto the batten, mounted, M8 bolts screwed into the threaded slot, and then I'm going to be putting some self-tapping screws in. I'm just going to pre-drill out the self-tapping screw areas, just because I had a little trouble on my test one getting some of the screws through the thicker bits of metal, so I'm just going to pre-drill the holes. And let's get those mounted. Right, well, I'm definitely not going anywhere anytime soon. Let's get centre one sorted. So same again for the centre batten spacing. What I'm going to do is again stick a flex on here, bolt it in, pre-drill holes and then put the screws in. And that should be a pretty sturdy fix. Right, that's all the roof batten space is done. Now time to let them cure. So for my rear battens I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to use those blue bits of wood I've been using elsewhere and just screw them directly into this back plate here. I'm going to use self tappers again. I'll probably pre-drill the holes and then I'm going to stick flex it in. So I'm just going to use a straight edge just to make sure that these are the same level. There we go. Leaves this open for now, means I've got access to conduit and the rear brake light if I need to in the future. I'm just going to mark these out and drill them out. So finally time to get the insulation in. I'm going to have a bit of a hand for this, so we're going to be pushing up the insulation and then screwing in the batten. So all centre battens I've drawn a line down the middle just so when I push them into place I can move them just so they're dead centre, lining them up with one of the centre lines in the van. I've also pre-drilled all the screws just so it's a lot easier than drilling screws directly into it when it's on the roof. So now I've got the main centre sections, these clamped in. And it's also giving me a little bit of a cableway, a little bit of service area as well. So if I do put anything in the cladding itself, I mean I can run cables directly behind the wood. These areas I'm just going to slide them in. Overall though, I'm really happy with how this is turning out. So all the screws drove in really easy because I made sure that they were going into just wood areas or where there's gaps in the van ribs. What I'm going to do, I'm going to go buy some more screws and then I'm also going to pre-drill a bunch of holes which I know go into the man's metal rib as well, just reinforce them with even more. So if anyone ever wonders what that noise is you hear in the background quite a lot in these videos, it is this little guy, which is an oyster catcher, which is just nesting over there in the gravel. He seems to make quite a frequent audio appearance in the videos. So next up is just cutting and making it into all the individual bits of blocks to fit in these slots here. Then just foil taping them all up. So we're going to leave it there for this video. We've got most of the conventional panels in the ceiling, insulation wise, and I just need to do a lot of foil taping. So next time I'm going to be doing some of the less than conventional areas, bits around where the bathroom's going to be, the roof vent's going to be, and also sort of the curved front of the van as well. That all still needs insulating. So once again, thanks for watching, and feel free to subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.